Hello, um, in this video I'm going to be showing you an example of a big idea and how you can use a big idea to write very good emails. Okay, so this is an example. This is an example of a very good email. If you look through it, we're going to read it together. I'm also going to be dropping the link for you to access this email. This is a very good write-up. As you can see, the layout, everything is perfect. So I'm going to be showing you exactly how to establish a big idea. That's the first thing we're going to do. I'm going to be highlighting the big idea of this email and show you how this writer uses it to sell what he was trying to sell in this email. So stick with me while I present all of this to you. Okay, so first of all, a big idea is the fundamental idea of an email on which every other thing or every other discussion that is made in that email rests upon. So for example, if I need you to buy um, a weight loss product, okay, if I need you to buy a weight loss product, I will have to understand what you think about a weight loss product first of all, and then look for a way to tilt your belief into what I want you to believe. Do you understand? So if for example you think that you're getting fat because you eat a lot of junks and chocolates, I can now write an email telling you that the reason why you're getting fat is not about eating junks or chocolates. It is simply because the red blood cells you have are refusing to produce some certain chemicals and enzymes that your body needs. And my product, which is, let's call it health facility. So my product health facility is going to be the product that you need to help your red blood cells produce these enzymes. So you see, that's a big idea. So the email I'm going to be writing is going to be centered around this idea that you don't get fat by eating junks. You simply get fat by um, you simply get fat because your red blood cells do not produce these enzymes. So that's just like a typical example and run through of how a big idea is being used and how it's being presented. So over to this email. As you can see, first of all, to actually read an email, the subject line must be captivating. So I got to open this email not because I am in love with the sender or not because I decided to open it, but the only reason why I opened this email is because the headline, the subject line got my attention. So the subject line is the actual hard part about sales. So everybody that is into, or anybody I may say that is into marketing or sales, this subject line is definitely going to attract their attention. The reason is because it helps every salesperson or every marketer to understand the actual hard part about sales, and it's very good for them to know the actual hard parts so that they can get some information that will help them thrive in the industry. So that being said, let's move on to this. Like I said, I'm going to be showing you how to establish a big idea and highlight the big idea in this email. So the actual hard part about sales, so let's go. The writer started with what is sales. So let's read this. If you can read this, you see that first of all the hook is quite captivating. So first of all started with what is sales. Seriously, take a moment and ask yourself what you think sales really is. Now, in another video, we'll cover the power of a very irresistible opening line. But for this video, we're just speaking about the big idea. So we're not going to really talk much about why this intro was used and the power of this intro. So we're moving on to the big idea. So let's move on. So he says, I suppose there are a lot of answers to this question, but if you were to ask me, sales is simply about asking for what it is you want. Of course, there are techniques to sales. You need good value propositions and you need to build trust. You need to fulfill a need. They are specific. sales tactics such as anchoring, mirroring, and gap selling. Expert sales people know these tactics, and I suggest you learn them. Okay, so now if you can read this like properly, you will see that the writer has tried to establish an idea that everybody already thinks. Do you understand? So now he has told you what you already know, which is, of course, there are techniques to sales, and you need good value propositions, and you need to build trust. Definitely, these are the basics that every salesperson needs. But he moves on by saying, but none of those. If I were him, I would have put this none in capital letter to drag more attention. He says, but none of those techniques or tactics will get you to the point of exchanging money. Don't forget the subject line is the actual hard part. So the reader right now is still looking for the actual hard part about sales. He's yet to discover the actual hard part about sales. So if we're still reading on, you see that he says, but none of those techniques or tactics will get you to the point of exchanging money. Do you understand? So now that's like a slap in the belief. For me, I was reading this and then I was thinking, okay, he's right about what he said. Of course, there are techniques to sales, you need good value propositions. All of this is true, and this is what everybody thinks. But now he's coming to say something different. None of those techniques will get you to the point of exchanging money. And this is actually where we are going to. We are trying to exchange money. That's the goal of every salesperson. But he's telling me that these techniques are not going to get you to this point. Do you understand the idea? So moving on to sell, he's not trying to now paint the big idea. So I'm highlighting the big idea for you to see. So the big idea begins from here. Of course, there are techniques to sell. You need good value propositions and need to be trusting to fulfill a need. This is where the big idea starts. You need all of this, fine. But to sell is to ask. So the big idea can be summarized in this line, these simple words. This is just 5-letter words. To sell is to ask. If you could write that in your diary, it's going to help you as a salesperson. So to sell is to ask. This is what the big idea is. He's trying to let you know that to sell is to ask, not to actually be anchoring, mirroring, or gap selling. To sell is to ask. So this is actually the hard part about sales that he's talking about. He just reviewed it. To sell is to ask. That's the actual hard part. So he keeps on going and still saying sales is not marketing, is not outreach, it's not copywriting, it's not sending well written emails, it's not posting on social media, it's not advertising, and it's not networking. So all of this is what every salesperson thinks sales is all about. As for me, as I'm a salesperson, I do think sales is about marketing. I do think it's about outreach. I do think it's about copywriting. So if I think sales is all about all of this, the writer now is trying to let me know that sales is not about this. So if he's saying it's not about this, I would definitely be inclined to know then what sales is really about. Do you understand? So he has established a big idea that has captivated me to keep on reading to actually find out what sales is really about. So he keeps on going and says these are the things that people do in order to avoid sales. At the end of the day, if you want something, you eventually need to ask for it. So you see the conversation now is centered around this statement: to sell is to ask. Do you understand? So the idea has been established. So it's now left for the reader. It's left for the writer to write to the end and make the sale. So he has said that to sell is to ask. So he keeps on saying, and asking is the part everyone dreads. That comes to the subject line, the actual hard part about sales. Actually, and asking is the part that everyone dreads. So why do people spend so much time on marketing? So if you keep on reading, he keeps on going on to actually explain why people dread away from the most important part of sales, which is to ask. You can see that's what this subject line is really about. Why do people spend so much time on marketing? He keeps on saying if you ask for something, what you see, everything he's trying to say is centered around the statement to sell is to ask. You got all the way to the very end and you stopped. Let's continue with the example of if you worked hard and generated interest in your product. If you read through, you understand that the writer is trying to still paint an idea. He's still trying to paint the picture behind the idea he has established. So this is just the easiest way to establish a big idea. But note that a big idea is not very easy to come by. You really need to understand your market, your niche. You really need to understand a few things before you can come up with a very, that's why it's called a big idea. It's not just called an idea. It's a big idea because it grabs attention by all means, and it actually establishes an idea that will make the reader or convince the reader to believe the idea that the writer has declared or has made. So as you can see, how to make the sale, you ask. Yes, it's that simple. When you get to this point in the conversation, here are some go-to lines, blah blah blah. So the writer still tries to offer more value while still giving them tips on how they can use this simple word to ask for a sale. Don't forget to sell is to ask. So he's giving tips on how you can ask for the sale. So this is more value, which is like proof. I call this major benefit, or I call this major evidence. Rather, major evidence is where you're highlighting some tips that backs up your idea. So all of this backs up the idea because these are open-ended questions that demand for sale. You understand? So when in doubt, the line, are you ready to get started now? This is a super tip, and I just jotted this down in my diary as well. Are you ready to get started? This line should always come in handy whenever you as a salesperson get stuck on the line. It's a very good open-ended question that gets you to make the sale. You understand? So if I'm ever stuck on sales call, this is the line I go to most. The writer is also saying it, that this line, are you ready to get started, is really a good line you can use as a salesperson. So that's going to be all for this video. Don't forget, the highlights of this is that you should understand how to establish a big idea, because your entire copy, regardless of it being an email copy, regardless of it being a sales copy, a sales letter, a video sales letter, a blog post, whatever written thing that you're trying to put online to attract people to buy from you, don't forget that you must establish an idea. And when you establish an idea, you must paint the picture in such a way that the picture backs up the idea to the fullest. Do you understand? So as you can see, after establishing this idea, the writer goes down to his postscript and says extra information that he's using to sell himself. Do you understand? So he backs up, he's still giving more tips on how you can actually make a sale. So it's just literally as simple as saying, hey, can I get your number? You understand? This is like a statement that most boys or most youth or young people, young boys in particular, really want to always use whenever they approach someone they're interested in, a female, but they never want to ask for the number. But it's as simple as saying, hey, can I get your number? That's the only way to get the number. There's no other way to get her number if you can't ask. Do you understand? So always try to ask for the sale is what the writer is trying to preach. So do not forget to always establish a big idea. One tip that I was given by my mentor, he told me, whenever you make a big idea, share it to your friends, and not just any friend, share it to your colleague, rather, your colleague in the same space that relates to the big idea you just created. And if they get to think about that idea for days, then it's really a big idea. But if it's something that they just scale through within minutes or hours, they need to rethink about another big idea. So that's gonna be all for this video. Thank you for listening. I do hope you understand the trick that is being used to create a very big idea. Do have a nice day.